Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stan, and welcome to A Russian Opinion. Today, we have Cassia. Cassia is from Canada, and she is currently living in Russia, not in Moscow. Today, she's going to be telling us her interesting story, the reasons why she had left Canada, and why she ended up in Russia, and everything, of course, in between. Cassia, welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much.
Okay, please tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What was your upbringing like? Which countries have you lived in? Maybe you've traveled somewhere. What have you studied? Just a little bit about yourself.
Mhm. So I grew up in Montreal, in Quebec, Canada. I spent most of my life there, though I also lived in Vancouver and Calgary. Um, I didn't visit any other country. Actually, my first international flight was towards Russia. So aside from their layover in between, that's all I visited. Sorry. Um, my upbringing was quite normal, I would say standard, like very Americanized. And yeah,
What did you prefer in Canada? Calgary, Vancouver, or Montreal?
Montreal.
If you exclude the language, I'm just curious. Which city
Yeah,
do you like the most?
Montreal.
Montreal.
I mean, Quebec City, I never lived there, but it's probably the best city. Uh, but yeah, Montreal is definitely my favorite one. I just wanted to try out other cities, so that's why I went to Vancouver. I always felt like I didn't belong in my own country, and I was just questioning myself, maybe the problem is Quebec. So that's why I went in the West Coast in the first place. But turned out that I felt the same everywhere in Canada, and it's really just when I moved to Russia that I felt like that's where I belong.
Why Russia? That's number one. And two, what exactly made you feel like you don't belong? Because I think this is something that many young adults experience, where they want to live in another country, they want to move somewhere, and they feel like they don't belong in their general area where they were born or where they live or in their nation, and they want to move. Not the case for everyone. Some people really don't feel like they belong where they were born. In your
Mhm.
case, though, what exactly made you feel this way, and why Russia? And then what in Russia made that feeling that you actually belong, kind of come about?
I think it's related to my soul. It's kind of like a internal conflict, like a fundamental conflict within yourself that you just don't feel great. You don't feel aligned. It's kind of hard to express for me, but this is the sentiment that I experienced moving to Russia. I just felt that my entire body was at peace compared to in Canada where I was conflicted. So I don't think it's necessarily because of Canada. It could be for many reasons, perhaps, but I think it's more a personal thing in the internal level of your soul.
But do you have something more concrete? Is it regarding what made you feel this way?
Uh, I don't know. No.
Okay. So, and then you moved to Russia. Okay, fine. Let's go back a little bit earlier. Why Russia, though? I mean, you had a whole bunch of
Yeah.
choices where you could move. How did you end up picking Russia?
I've just had a lot of interest towards the country, the culture, the people, the fact that it's in Europe, food quality, education, like I, I don't know. I think it goes again to the point of my soul belonging in Russia. I cannot really explain why out of the sudden I love Russia so much because it's kind of like a phenomenon, hard to explain. Because why do I like Russia so much if I'm from Canada? Like, I cannot explain it myself. I love everything about it, and I feel happy here. I feel safe, and all of the weight that I carried on my shoulder lifted, and I felt the difference the first day that I was here.
Uh, okay, but it's not like you all of a sudden just turned a certain age and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm gonna move to Russia now. It had to come up from somewhere. The idea, the concept of living here had to be introduced into your mind. So who introduced it? Why did all of a sudden you get this interest? From where did it come from? It couldn't have just popped up out of nowhere.
Like, well, I was playing video game and I joined a Russian server and I met Russian people and that's how it started. So yeah.
How did it progress? Like, okay, so you met some Russians in a video game server,
Yeah.
and I guess they were joking around. They were, I assume they were friendly, I guess. And afterwards, okay, so you met a few Russians. You realize that there's a country out there called Russia. And then what did you do to generate that interest in yourself? Because again, moving to a country during, sanctions, during an external conflict, is not the easiest choice, and most people won't make that choice, especially when the Russian government is clamping down on most Western technologies for communicating with the outside. Like, the idea couldn't have come from a server; it had to come up from somewhere else. So, how did you generate that idea of moving to Russia?
Well, generally, I'm a very curious person, so it piqued my interest, and I started doing a lot of research. And my first encounter with Russian was in 2023, during the spring. So, and also in the same server, I was also in contact with Ukrainians. So I was kind of being told the two faces, we can say, of the conflict. But at that time, I was not really interested in politics outside of American, Canadian politics. So I hadn't followed anything about Ukraine, what was happening, like in the mainstream media in Canada. I wasn't following any of that. So by curiosity, I just started researching and paying attention to what Russians were saying, because it's literally the opposite of everything in the West we were saying, right? And it just kind of piqued my interest even more. And then I learned the truth about the country, the history, and I just discovered that the people are very kind people, very welcoming. It's the sense of community is there, and everything that I was looking for to have a family in the future, I could find in Russia. So I guess in 2023, it was a pivot year for me because I had to make choices. Do I continue to go to school and have one children when I'm 35? Or do I just drop out of school and pursue my dream of having a big family? So I was asking myself a lot of questions at the same time as discovering more about Russia and quality of life here and etc. So it didn't take me long to make my decision to move. It took about 6 months. So by the end of 2023, I had decided that I want to move in the goal of making a family.
Okay. And as someone who has lived in Canada, I know the differences between the way the Canadian government treats families and the type of propaganda that is constantly being spewed upon the local population, and what's being done here in Russia, and the Russian propaganda, the type of propaganda that's being pushed. And I'm using the word propaganda in a neutral way. It's basically the idea that's being put upon the population of what's ethical, what's unethical, what's good, what's not good. I get that. My question to you as a Canadian woman, why do you think, or why do you feel that you cannot have a big family in Canada, but you can have a big family in Russia?
The men in Canada don't want a lot of children for the most part. It's also difficult to find a man that isn't very like left-leaning. It feels like most of them are left-leaning, which doesn't really align with my values. And just in terms, for example, culturally, if I say, oh, well, I would like to raise my own children and not work when they are little, I'm called lazy, I'm called a gold digger by men, right? So that's one part. The second part is financially. Even for a traditional man in Canada, it will be difficult to, well, they say that it will be difficult to raise a lot of children. I don't think that it's a good reason. I think even if you're poor, you can have 10 children. It doesn't matter. If you want to, you can. But a lot of Canadian people think about wanting to give the best quality of life to their children. So they're like, well, I have money only for two.
I agree with you in this case. We do in Russia have a lot less left leaning men. And we do have this push for bigger and bigger families. Although having a family is expensive, but I believe it's not as expensive as mainstream media, at least in the West, pushes it. I know that there's a huge difference between what daycare and kindergartens cost in Canada and the US, and how very little, even compared to this difference in salaries, they cost here. I get that. There's a lot of very important aspects in Russia that actually help big families, but still, big families in Russia still do struggle, because it's not the easiest thing to do, obviously. I have two kids myself now. I have a second kid, and I find myself having very little time to dedicate to extracurricular activities like vlogging, for example, which is why I've cut back for quite a few months, because my son is now 9 months old and requires a lot of care, whereas my daughter is 9 years old and she requires very little care compared to my son. And I think that's quite obvious. Okay, I have a question regarding perhaps safety, regarding the warmth of the people. In Russia, you don't live in Moscow, you live outside of Moscow. So the people there, because you're not in a big city, they're naturally much warmer. They're naturally much more open to speaking with you. How have you been treated since you've arrived in Russia?
I've been treated well. I think people assume that I'm Russian in general. So there is some type of language barrier clash when they realize that I don't understand them. Like I'm learning Russian. Like my goal is to be Russian and integrate, but it's still difficult, specifically with my neighbors who is like older woman. So yeah, but no, everyone is very kind. I have a great friend circle, not just in my city, but also in other cities. So I have support if I need help with anything. So I think I can resume it with one sentence. I think that Russian people treated me better than my own family in Canada.
And how did your family in Canada react? Because you made quite a huge, a drastic
Yeah,
change in your life. How did they react when you told them, "Hey, you know what? It's 2026. There's a couple of big conflicts in the world. Guess what?
yeah.
I'm moving to Russia." Like, well, how did they react?
Well, um, my mom panicked the first time I told her because she went on Canada government website and she saw that Russia is in the do not travel level 5 danger. So she panicked. But when I told her that I had a plan, that I wanted to teach English and French, that I was doing my certificate to teach, and she knew that I always wanted to pursue a teaching career as well. So she was more supportive after that. It took her maybe 6 months to cool down, but then now she's supportive. My uncle, I don't have a big family. I have my mom and my uncle, and my uncle is like sometimes worried because there's still propaganda. They say, "Oh, Russian don't have any internet." So when they said that, they text me, "Oh, are you okay?" Like, yes, I will not die if I don't have internet. It's all good, but I had internet anyway. But yeah,
Okay, so their reaction was definitely interesting.
yeah,
And now that they see that you're living here, and I'm sure you tell them that you're okay, you're treated well, like you told me, has that changed their perspective a little bit on the country, or are they still very much, engulfed by Western propaganda where they don't believe anything you tell them?
um, I don't know. I don't really speak to them that much in general. But they are Generation X, so they listen to everything the news tell them on TV. But I mean, I send them some videos, and everything is good, so they don't have to worry about anything. I feel like a lot of the people I went to school with, I've met in the last year before moving, and it's like in a small town outside of Montreal, and they were all supportive and interested in general. Like the reaction of the people that are not like as politicized as in big cities, they were interested. They didn't have some judgment towards me.
Over the past 10 years, how has Canada changed as it whether economically, socioeconomically, whether it's safety wise? I mean, in your experience, because all I hear and see online, and these could be exaggerated, is that Canada is so full of migrants that it's no longer safe. Canada is so full of drugs that it's no longer safe. The economy is terrible, and getting a job is absolutely, like, it's incredibly difficult. I hear so much negativity that I'm beginning to think that it's a bit exaggerated. So I'd want to hear it directly from you. In your opinion, how has Canada changed over the past, let's say, 10 years? Positive, neutral, negative, and what aspects of that change would you like to highlight?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think it's an exaggeration. Um, it's everything you mentioned is correct. I mean, we even get migrants in small cities now because they get more PR points when they move in small cities, and it also ruins the job market, the housing market. So for me, I had, for example, 7 years of experience in 2022 in my field. I was applying for a job. I had to go back to school to survive. I could not get a job. It took 1 year and a half. And I was applying outside my field, right? But every company was saying, I'm hiring, but they were not hiring. They were only hiring migrants because the government were paying them like half of the income, like half of the salaries. I mean, so it created a lot of, like, it was just a bad time for all young Canadians in general. Like, those jobs used to be for the high school young Canadians, right? So it's definitely frustrating, and the cities are not safe. Like big cities, obviously. I don't know if you know, but in Montreal they opened injection center. So I don't know if we can talk about this on YouTube, but it's like
We can. I don't care anymore. We can talk about
okay,
whatever we want.
okay. So injection centers is basically a place where they give drug addicts syringe, so it's sterile and safe for them to use the drug. And in Montreal, they opened it downtown, sometimes even next to kindergarten. And I used to work next to Place des Arts, that's not too far from UQAM. And they had a injection center right in the middle, so it destroyed all of the small business, the hotels as well, because nobody wants to go in an area where there's drug users on the street. They will rob the cars, break the window, do a lot of damage to the neighborhood. And I find that it made it very unsafe. And also, pepper spray is illegal. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but I had to bring a metal water bottle full of water. That's the only weapon, well, self-defense tool I had to protect myself. And I was like a lot of time in the metro or walking back home. I was scared for my safety or just to get robbed because I had valuable items, like just my phone. They will steal it. So I really didn't feel great. This is one of the reasons why I just didn't like Montreal anymore, but it's the same thing in Toronto, Vancouver, any big city.
You had mentioned that this is regarding safety. You had mentioned that you were attacked by a Ukrainian in Canada. How did that conflict arise? What happened? Why did he attack you?
Знімай мене, знімай. Я ще разу будеш показувати цей прапор.
Іду спати.
Тряпка,
Іду спати.
тряпка,
Да.
тряпка, ще вона
Да.
оголошається нею.
Do.
Well, they will say that I was provocating because I was walking with the Russian flag. But my intention of walking with the Russian flag was only because I just bought it and I was proud, and it was a nice night. It was nice weather, and I was walking downtown with it, and I was like, oh, maybe I can make some Russian friends. Like, there's a big dysphoria in Montreal, and I did until I did not. And this Ukrainian attacked me from behind, ripped out my flag out of my back, and he tried to punch me. There was a stranger on the street that protected me. He stopped his fist. He tried to hit me twice. And I told him, like, just in case he didn't notice, like, I'm a girl. Like, don't hit me, I'm a girl. But he still tried after to hit me. And then, I started recording. He calmed down, and I made the national news in Russia for this.
Okay, if you don't mind, I mean, I know you sent me the video. I'm actually going to put the video in the interview so it plays as well. Now, you were attacked by Ukrainian in Canada, and there's a big Ukrainian diaspora in Canada, huge, especially in I think Manitoba and in Alberta. I think especially Manitoba.
Toronto as well.
Toronto as well, yes, exactly. They also have a big Russian community too. Now, you moved to a country that's currently in a conflict with Ukraine. And we're feeling this conflict as well here on our territory. Like, for example, we constantly have drones flying overhead. The Ukrainians have several times they've launched something called the Scalp. It's an Anglo-French missile. In fact, recently, this was quite recent that they actually hit Bryansk and they killed 6 people, injured 37. They've been using these weapons that are donated to them by NATO countries, like Canada, for example, that you came from, and lots of European countries as well. And this money, this taxpayer money, is being used to destroy cities here. You're living here. How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel safe, unsafe, outraged? Because now you're here. Now you're on this side. And it's European taxpayer money, and it's Canadian taxpayer money, and American taxpayer money that's actually threatening your life.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to move fast, because I didn't want to give any more tax money to this government. And it also makes me angry at any Russian that is living in NATO country that are somewhat patriotic towards Russia while they are living abroad. I have a very strong feeling about them because they are funding a war against their own people, and I have no respect for that, for their own gain as well, because they move abroad to make money, right? So obviously it makes me feel, I guess, enraged is the great word for that. I obviously don't support that, and a lot of Canadians and Americans do not support Ukraine war. If you look at comments on social media, each time the government is saying, oh, we're sending 50 billion, everyone, the majority of the people commenting are disagreeing. And we do not want to fund any war because our healthcare is destroyed, right? Our roads are full of potholes. Like, we have issues in our own country that we need to fix before funding foreign affairs. So that's a sentiment that even a patriotic Canadian, patriotic American will have towards Ukraine. We're tired of it. So now for me being here, I mean, I'm not really scared for my life. I'm not afraid of dying in general. But I definitely feel it more because I never have mobile internet when I go outside because Ukraine's sending drones. But in the West, they say that Ukraine is not attacking Russia, but every day they are attacking Russia. And as far as I know, the battlefield is not in Russia, right? It's, well, now maybe it's New Russia, but it's in Ukrainian territory, you know? So why are they attacking Moscow? Or Bryansk, like you said, or Kursk? Like, it's not the front line. And I can say more things about Ukrainians, my experience with them in Canada, if you want. I was on a dating app in Canada, and on my bio, it said that I'm learning Russian. It's all it says. Like, I'm a girl. I'm not supposed to be well-versed in politics, I guess. I just want to learn Russian because it's a beautiful language. This is what I will tell them. And the reaction I got from quite a lot of them is just disgusting. Death threats, for example. They will harass me from multiple accounts after I block them. They will send me gore photos of Russian soldier dying, Russian children as well, being dead. And before that, I never saw a dead person. So it really marked my brain, right? And the fact that it's them that did it just proved the points that they don't have, I guess, respect or ethics. When it comes to Russian, they yeah, they really hate them.
Well, I mean, if you look into history and look what was going on in the Second World War, after the German machine ended up taking big parts of Ukraine, SSR at the time. If you want to know what kind of atrocities were going on, I mean, you can look at that part of history, and
Yeah.
it's horrifying. Even the Germans, it's a claim. Apparently, it's true. Even the Germans were shocked at the brutality and atrocities that were done by a bunch of groups that evolved into very, very pro-Ukrainian movements that are actually hailed as heroes today in modern Ukraine. Not a lot of Canadians actually know that part, but it's quite important to understand. I have a question for you. Something a little bit light, away from this particular concept. You mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned Canadian healthcare, Canadian potholes, and you mentioned also a lot of migrants as well, just like I mentioned them. Now, my question to you, because I still, even though I've been on break from YouTube, and I still get comments about migrants and that it's as bad in Russia as it is in the West. You've been here a couple of months, I believe, right? Yeah. And you live in a small town, and you've been to Moscow, you've been to other cities. Do you find the migrant problem here to be the same, worse, or better? How do you find the healthcare here? And are the roads in Russia worse than in Montreal, or the same, or better?
So for the migrant question, I technically live in the most diverse region. So that's one of the regions where we have the most migrants, apparently. But I feel like it's a different type of migrants. They are not here to steal everything they can, siphon the states. They are here to work. And I feel like it's a different dynamic than Canada. In Canada, there's also the type of migrants that they attract is also very anti-West, as if, oh, the West colonized us, they stole from us, now we will go steal from them. So I feel like the dynamic is different. And also the numbers are different. There's less migrants in Russia. So that will, I mean, immigration is immigration, whether some people disagree for all immigration, some people are okay for some people are okay for all of the immigration. So it's a different topic, but I feel like there's a difference in the quality of the migrants that Russia gets versus Canada or UK, for example. And for the healthcare in Russia, well, it's not hard to be worse it's hard to be worse than Canada. Canada's probably the worst one. I never got good quality healthcare in Canada. I'm still traumatized. I have to take an appointment to a doctor, and I have to call the clinic to book it. I'm still scared, but I've been to a doctor once in Russia so far, and he believed me, and it shocked me because he believed me, believed my symptoms. He prescribed me treatment. He also did tests during the same appointment. I didn't have to wait 6 months to get a reference to do the test. It was all in the same appointment, and he gave me treatment. So I was shocked that they believed me. The healthcare is definitely better in Russia. It's probably not perfect. I'm assuming there's nothing perfect in life, but it's hard to be worse than Canada.
Yeah, you really have to try. Like, for example, for the same problem that I had to wait in Canada for 3 months just to get an appointment, I got an appointment. I stopped by the clinic just to see if I could get an appointment. And I was with my family, and it was cold. And this was after my son was born. So I went in there, and they're like, "Oh, we can take you in right now." I'm like, "I can't. My family's in the car." Then they said, "Well, okay, come back in 2 hours." And the clinic was busy. In Montreal, 3 months just to get an appointment. And here, when I came, I got the appointment right away. And they would give me all the treatments that I expected based on previous experience. Something that when I called in Montreal, I asked them, "Are you going to do A, B, C, D, E?" They said, "No, we're just actually going to see if we can even prescribe you or give you a reference or something like that."
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you, and I understand you so very, very well when you say you're traumatized and scared, because I also As a regular guy, I don't like to go to the hospital or the clinic and I wait until something falls off, which is not good. You always have to check. However, I am still traumatized by Canadian healthcare, where I think
Yeah.
if I go in, I'll be waiting for months and months
Uh-huh.
and months.
I'm used to like kind of treat myself. So it's like, oh, I will wait 3 months to see if it gets better.
Yeah, here it's
Yeah.
almost like, yeah, sure, let's go, let's do it.
It's normal.
available.
And the doctor can come to your house as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me, the service. So it's definitely better. So that's something that when you're looking for a place that you want, where you want to build a family, like this is something you care about, like healthcare, education, safety. Like you were talking about puddles. I don't know if you saw the news in Montreal, but there's a citizen that started fixing the puddle for the city, and it went viral. All of the news, the mayor also got into it because they're not fixing it.
But Tekiaut isn't a city worker, and filling potholes isn't his job. Yet, downtown on the corner of Robert Bourassa Boulevard and Cathcart Street, he simply decided to take the matter into his own hands.
So Russian roads are better, especially, I mean, Moscow is probably they replace the roads every year, but even like small towns, like Russian people will complain, oh, there's holes. Yeah, go in Montreal, in downtown Montreal, or even Toronto. It's worse, and it's like a big city. So it's like in St. Petersburg or Moscow, Kazan, maybe at this scale, if there was puddles in the downtown, like that's unacceptable.
Yeah, and I mean we do have issues with this for sure. But I recently drove from Yekaterinburg to Moscow. I drove alone. I drove on the brand new. It's a paid road in areas. In some areas, it's free. In some areas, you have to pay for it. I mean, wow! I was blown away. I hope that it will remain this way for many, many years to come because we do live in a harsh environment, just like Canada. So I hope it remains very well maintained because having a road like that is just absolutely fantastic. So it took me 16 hours in one go, but I managed to do it. And now a 5-hour drive seems like, next door for me after 16 hours in the car. What kind of difficulties are you facing whilst living in Russia right now? What do you find the most difficult to get used to?
I wish I could download Russian language in my brain, and one day that will fix all my problems because it's all related to the language. Like it's difficult to find a job because I don't speak Russian. I speak Russian, like A2 maybe, but yeah, it's the language barrier is the most difficult. Also to like just go socialize, like I went out a few times to try to make friends, and yes, I'm very interesting to them for sure. But it's like hard to socialize with stranger. Like for example, my neighbor, like she would love to speak to me, but we don't understand each other. It's like yes, I can use a translator. I can use a translator like when the internet works anytime. But even for like bureaucracy, it was difficult by myself. Sometimes they denied my friend that was translating for me because he's not an official translator. So, I mean, yeah, bureaucracy, well, I'm done with it for now, so I don't have any more difficulties. But it's really all related to Russian language.
Okay. And obviously, bureaucracy exists in many other places on this earth.
Yeah.
From what I understand, it is a lot better than it used to be. Bureaucracy used to be an absolute nightmare here. Merely 6 years ago, and if you go even 10 years back, it was even worse. And 20 years back, it was just an absolute, it was insane. It was insanely bad. So,
yeah.
So now it's supposed to be a lot better than it used to be. But besides bureaucracy and besides the language, the language itself, which is very difficult and you need it to live on a daily basis, is there anything else that you find difficult to get used to?
No AC, no ice machine. So very American thing. Like I drink a lot of ice water, iced coffee, iced tea. So I don't have an ice machine here. So I have to make it in the freezer. So for me, it's difficult.
Oh, okay.
Um,
You mean like the one button that you press in the fridge and the
yeah,
ice
on the
comes out?
fridge.
I'm pretty sure you
Mhm.
can get a fridge with the ice machines here somewhere.
Probably, yeah. I just don't have one. And no, I don't have AC. So, I mean, it's just getting used to European kind of way of lifestyle. Also, it's a slower lifestyle. I have to get used to this.
Explain.
Be, I feel still a lot of guilt when I'm not super productive every day. I kind of have to step back and tell myself it's fine. It's just the life is slower here. Because in Canada, it's like always you have to be productive like between 8 and 12 hours a day. So if you're not working, you have to do other things like a side hustle, for example, a business, whatever. And there's a lot of pressure to be productive in North America in general. Meanwhile, in Europe, I guess the work culture is different.
Yes, it's entirely different. The difference is extreme from the amount of holidays you get, to the relationships you have in the office, the restrictions and the rules. It is so different. Someone would have to work both here and work in North America to understand what we're talking
Yeah.
about, because the
Yeah.
work cultures are extremely, extremely different. I mean,
Yeah.
there are people in Europe. They force you some European countries, from my experience, they force you to take vacation. I mean, I've read reports where they say that a certain portion of Americans, either I don't know, remember if it's a third, I can't remember the exact numbers. They don't even
Yeah.
take vacation at all because they feel like they're letting their coworkers down. They feel like they'll be left behind, and they have to be part of this grind culture, which
Yeah.
has its pluses, has its benefits, I guess. We can, if you want to discuss that, we can. But okay, so life is slower for you here, but that's a positive thing, right?
It is. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to come here, but it takes time to adjust, to kind of acclimate myself to this because I still feel a lot of guilt. I feel like I'm not productive enough. But I don't know. I guess it's normal to have to get used to that. But everything, like the fact that I can walk everywhere, this is something that I like. Like, so I don't have a lot of difficulties per se, but I have to get used to the culture. Compared to the lifestyle that I was used to in Canada.
Now, next question is going to be a little bit more difficult, potentially. Do you feel like you're living under a dictatorship? Because that is what Russia is called out in the West. Now, I know for a fact that we don't live in a dictatorship because there's a lot of infighting in the government here, a fight for power. There's not one single body that makes decisions, which makes it a bit frustrating sometimes when one body decides to ruin a lot of things for the whole country and decides to start banning lots of very, very productive applications that provide lots of use, even contribute to the economy. But do you yourself feel like we're living in a dictatorship or no?
No. When I was in Canada, I had a perspective that the government was right on the right, like a lot on the right, I guess. But when I moved there, I realized that they're actually more centered, leaning right. So even for me, I would like a government that is more like, I guess, more kind of like monarchies or conservative government that are stricter for a lot of things. And I find the Russian government to be quite liberal in some things. And it's not bad necessarily. I mean, people are free. That's what it means. So it's a free country. So and I had conversation with Russian that are like, oh, we are under totalitarianism just because they block Instagram. It's Instagram. It's WhatsApp. I understand we are used to those apps, but it's 20 years ago we didn't have that. We're not gonna die, and there's a reason why it's blocked, and I understand the reason, and I agree with it in some extent. Like the West doesn't want to collaborate with Russian laws, then there's a consequence to that. We can make our own app at this point.
Although the argument of we lived without it 20 years ago doesn't work, because then you can say, well, what do we need the car for? We lived with a horse and buggy a mere 100 years ago. Why don't we ban cars because they're bad for the environment and start using a horse and buggy? And I'm making this analogy because, unfortunately, a lot of the applications that we have are like the horse and buggy. They are nowhere near the same level of quality as the Western ones are. And even some of these applications are used to generate more GDP for the country, attract business, and provide jobs here. And that's one of the reasons why there is a certain part, like there was an exodus of people when the war with Ukraine, or the special military operation, there was an exodus of people here. And the new exodus started happening when government restrictions became ridiculous to the point where they were banning different websites left and right that probably have nothing to do with the SMO, for example, or any kind of don't pose any threat. So the idea is that these people, the new exodus, they were moving because when it's only one thing, like who cares? Yeah, Instagram, although a lot of Russians had lots of business on Instagram.
Yeah.
But when it's a lot of things together, even if they're things that you're not using, even if you're not using GitHub or Biddle Meets, for example, when all of them are put together, then you start feeling restrictive, even if you don't use those programs. And that's why there's a big exodus of people moving to other, even Belarus now. Russians, they're moving because they're like, we've had enough of this. We kind of actually want to be able to use the programs that we use to communicate and to generate revenue, et cetera, et cetera. So I understand.
But I think
why
it's
some-
temporary, so that's why I think it's temporary, and it will be back at normal. But also, I don't support Meta in general. I don't support this company, so
Yeah, I understand. In fact,
yeah.
here's the interesting part. Once Facebook was banned, I stopped going on Facebook. It didn't really do anything for my life. Once Instagram was banned, it did nothing for me. I know a lot of businesses in Russia did suffer a lot because of it, but it did nothing for me. However, when they started banning, Discord and WhatsApp and Telegram, or not banning, but slowing down, the interesting thing happened is that the Russian population started finding ways around the blocks. Whereas before they were like, who cares? It's just Meta. We don't care. But now my daughter knows how to go around those blocks, and she's 9.
Yeah.
The people's grandmas know how to go around these blocks. So bravo to the people who did the blocks. You made it even worse, because now they've actually said, well, you know what? We realize that we can't actually block all the ways of going around. So bravo, guys. The results are the opposite of what you wanted to achieve. But that's my own personal issues with the whole blocks. So I hope it's temporary as well, but history...
I think so. It's because the communication is close with the West, so it makes everything harder. So when things gets better in that concept, in that sense, it will slowly go back to normal. Or maybe they will make better apps. Maybe they can collaborate with China and make a good app.
I hope so, because they've had 14 years. They've had the exact same time to make a YouTube equivalent, and they failed because they roughly opened them up at the same time. There was a difference of maybe a year or so. And they're continuing to fail, unfortunately, which is quite terrible for the local population here who want to have access to all different kinds of data. Anyways, moving on. What do you like the most about living in Russia? What is something that stands out so much that this is something that you just are still amazed that we have here? What is it? What aspect? Whether it's services, the people, a type of food, public transportation, it could literally be anything.
Well, it's literally everything that we don't have in America that we have here. So higher food quality, better transportation, everything is walkable. If we talk to European or Russian people, everything is walkable to them. They can walk for 2 hours. I cannot, but so everything is more accessible. There's a sense of community, even in the modern world, which is rare. That if you have, for example, I had a problem last week. I had a very heavy package, and I was walking alone, and 5 minutes later, a man stopped and he helped me carry it. I'm pretty sure, I didn't experience that in Canada, but I'm pretty sure in Canada or the US, they will have just kept driving and let me deal with my stuff alone. So there's a stronger sense of community, people helping each other. I think everything is better, at least for me. Like, education, public transportation. Like you can take a train everywhere. You have bus in villages. Like that blew my mind when I first heard that because my friend lives in the village, and I was like, oh, so if I want to visit you, I will need a car. That's a very American way to think. But it's like, no, there's bus every 30 minutes from a random village next to a small city, highway from Moscow, and that just blew my mind.
The amount of people who want to move to Russia has actually decreased. The amount of people who are Russian speaking, but they live in maybe the Baltics, for example, that flow, from my understanding, has remained roughly the same. They already speak Russian. They have relatives here. They can move. They're going to get a lot of help. That's fine. However, from what I'm being told is the influx of Westerners moving to Russia, or the amount of Westerners moving to Russia has decreased. In fact, there are those who are leaving as well. I completely understand why. Now, my question to you is, are you here, in your opinion, for good? Or is there something?
Yeah.
Did you set something in your mind or on paper somewhere, and you said, if the situation were to get to this point, I will have to go back to Canada? Is there something?
No,
No?
I don't even have money to go back to Canada. So
The money can be earned, but
yeah, of course, no. If I were to leave, I don't have I didn't make a plan B, basically. I made my plan to move. I decided, okay, this is my timeline. I get a job, no plan B. And for all I care, like whatever country could nuke Russia, I will stay here. I don't want to ever leave the country. So, of course, the only way I could leave if I get deported, for example, and they make me leave and they come find me in my apartment and make me leave. That's the only way that I will be leaving. So yeah, I don't have a plan B. But for example, I get deported, I will not go back to Canada. Probably I will go to Asia or Western Europe, or maybe even closer, maybe like Baltic, like you mentioned, or yeah, maybe.
Okay. Now, something that I have at the end of every interview is called an open microphone. Basically, if you want to say something that we haven't discussed, a particular story that you want to share, or make a comment, say hello to somebody, I don't know. That's why I call it an open microphone. Go ahead, please. This is your open mic.
I actually did not prepare anything for my open mic.
Nobody does. Don't worry, nobody does. Almost.
Well, I can send a message to all of the Russian men that are fighting for our protection in the front line. Right now, I can tell them that I'm very grateful for their sacrifice, and also a word of support for their close family that are full of anxiety. For example, maybe it's their son, maybe it's their husband, maybe it's their father. So yeah, I would like to personally thank our soldiers that are fighting this fight for our safety, for our freedom, for the sake of humanity.
Yeah, it's very. I like what you said, because I know some of them. I personally know at least 4, and I worry about them. And every time they're home, I'm happy that they're home. So
they're not home a lot, though. It's like a week every 6 months.
I'm very grateful for, there's people who go volunteer. There's people who were mobilized from a while back. And there's people who are at home supporting, whether it's through the economy, through donations, there's a lot of ways that we can support the country. I'm very grateful for the people that are on the front lines. And again, I know some of them. I'm very grateful for when they're home. And like I always say, I hope this conflict ends as soon as possible, because a lot of Slavic people are being unalived, as the popular word on YouTube, unalived for Western interests, and should be completely unacceptable. It's unfortunate that it has come to this, but hopefully peace will come sooner rather than later. Cassia, thank you very much for your time today. I know we were planning this interview for quite some time.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we finally did it. And thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And you have your own channel. I'm going to link it in the description below. That's where people are going to be finding you. And that would be it. Thank you very much for everyone who actually stayed, watched, finished. Please like, subscribe, comment. You know the process. Today, Stan has been with you. Again, Cassia, thank you very, very much. I hope you have a
Thank
fantastic evening. And I'm going to go see what my family's up to. Ciao.
Bye.